Alright, YouTube, I don't usually cover trials and media frenzy bullshit in my videos. Of course, I made a slight exception for the Casey Anthony trial some time ago, and now I'm going to make an exception for the George Zimmerman trial. Not because the trial itself particularly interests me, but I have been keeping up with it some, and I think there's a misconception in society right now. They're assuming that Zimmerman is some sort of rabid racist. That he, in Trayvon's own words, he's a creepy white cracker, essentially. The logic simply doesn't follow. The idea that Zimmerman is a racist against black people seems to be taken from the view that people had early on when the story first broke. Zimmerman was called white. And of course said to the court, of course, he found this individual suspicious, that he saw a suspicious person and decided to get out of his truck and go see what was going on. And the logic doesn't follow. Just because you say a person looks suspicious and they happen to be a different race than yours does not mean that the reason you found them suspicious was due to their race. And Zimmerman is not himself white. And here's something I found hilarious. The term white Hispanic used to describe him. The term white Hispanic is right now being primarily used by the sort of politically correct liberal individuals in the media. And I don't like to buy into the nonsense of liberal versus conservative very much, and I'm outspoken against both sides when they do weird bullshit. But it is primarily the liberal side of the media doing this, using this term white Hispanic to differentiate Zimmerman, I guess, from what they would call not a white Hispanic, you know, a deeply tanned Mexican dude with a sombrero or something, which is in itself almost racist. And this term was demonized and overlooked by the liberal media up until this trial, and was never used by them, because they didn't want to insinuate that Hispanics could share, you know, any similarity with whites, so that would be politically incorrect to do so. And we're not sure why, but they simply held that view, and you didn't see the term in wide use until now. But he is not white, he is ethnically Hispanic. You can go back and forth all day, well, yes, there are white Hispanics. Yes, there are white Hispanics. The problem being the term was never actually used by the people that are using it now until this trial. So why the sudden liking of this term that they so despised beforehand? And I finally got into watching the footage of the trial itself, the calling of the witnesses. Their star witness, I don't know if she was drunk or stoned or what was going on with her. She was hostile the entire time, for one thing. She was talking back and being sarcastic to the defense attorney, which, I mean, that's happens sometimes in trials anyway, but still it doesn't bode well for the witness when they do that. There was a motion actually to impeach this witness, which didn't go through, although in many ways it should have. She contradicted her own deposition, because in the deposition she said she couldn't tell whether it was Trayvon or Zimmerman or who saying help, that she wasn't sure. And then, of course, today, as a witness on the witness stand, she said, well, it was Trayvon. Well, both of these can't be true. Either it was or you're not sure. You can't go to court, give a deposition, and then change your story when they talk. You have to be dumb to do it, number one, because they've got it all on record. They're going to call you out on it. And number two, it's dishonest. And these people, and here's the thing that I see as the biggest problem. A lot of the people that are sort of, well, Trayvon did nothing wrong, he was just a kid who got shot by this terrible racist, are themselves spouting all of these racist statements on Twitter and Facebook and wherever else. Kill Whitey, he was a dumb cracker, he only killed Trayvon because he was black. What evidence do you have? Zimmerman's friend there, one of his neighbors, who was one of his best friends, who happens to be black, who openly came out quite some time ago and said Zimmerman was not in any way a racist. He's one of his best friends is a black man. He never noticed him to be racist. It doesn't make any sense. The whole trial literally doesn't make sense. And you look at the evidence, you say there's question as to who approached whom. There's question as to who started the fight. You look at, and this was pointed out after the actual witness testimony today, this was pointed out, the grass stains on Trayvon's pants are on the front, on the knees. If he's got grass stains on the front of his knees, that would indicate that if they were rolling around, he was on top, that he wasn't actually on the bottom. We have, of course, Zimmerman's injuries, which are commensurate with him being beaten. He's got a broken nose and a gash on his head, bleeding everywhere. There's question as to who is really, truly, at the root of it, responsible for these events. The thing is this. In a court, you don't have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what is being done. They're trying to charge him with second-degree murder, and as someone else pointed out, it would be easy to charge him with manslaughter, because then you just have to show he killed him, and that's basically it. And it's clear, yes, no one's saying that Zimmerman didn't kill Trayvon Martin. He did. He shot him. What's at question here is, did he do it in self-defense? Florida's got a stand-your-ground law. You have the right to use deadly force for self-defense purposes. So if all the defense has to do is show that there's reasonable doubt that George Zimmerman wasn't antagonized, wasn't attacked. Well, he's got injuries, for one thing. It's fairly clear that Trayvon at some point was attacking him. It's not entirely clear if he did it unprovoked. It could have been George Zimmerman mauled him and that Trayvon fought back. That's also possible. We'll have to wait for additional evidence on this. But I think the thing that gets me the most, again, is you look on social media, on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and most of the supporters of Trayvon Martin are saying, kill the cracker. There are people saying they'll literally riot in the streets if he's let off. They're essentially saying they'll take the law into their own hands. That doesn't look very good for his supporters. You don't see many people supporting, you see people supporting Zimmerman, but you don't generally see them saying, well, if Zimmerman's put in prison, I'm going to go, kill some black people. You simply don't see that. And again, you look at the media, and they're sort of softballing the issue. As far as Martin, they're softballing this one witness who was completely destroyed during her testimony. And they're saying, well, it doesn't matter that she lied. She's under stress and she's only 18. No, actually it does matter if you lie under oath. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 80. She clearly lied. Either that or she's so forgetful she has no clue what's going on, in which case how the hell can her testimony possibly be relevant? Hence the motion to impeach the witness. She's up there, and, number one, nobody could understand her because she was speaking in such a low tone, but that has nothing to do with her actual testimony. It just means it's hard to understand what she's saying. She goes up there and she lies. And she even claims she lied about her age in an interview she gave before. Then she disclaims the entire interview she gave a year ago and says, well, I was rushed through it. What does that say about her character? That should raise some sort of doubt as to whether anything she says can be taken seriously. She lied about her reasons for not going to the funeral. Well, was she at the hospital or was she doing her hair? Where did they find them? Why did they even bother to call this witness? They had to have known, I would presume, if the prosecutor is competent, they would have known she would act in this manner. I don't know, maybe they assumed that the defense was going to be incompetent and wouldn't notice. It was a travesty, and there were several other witnesses that were equally cut down by the defense. And like I said, you don't have to be racist to say that somebody looks suspicious just because they happen to be black. That's essentially saying that you can't be suspicious of anybody. If they're black, you have to leave them alone, even if they are acting in a suspicious manner. Like if I see someone walking down the street carrying a severed head, that's bleeding all over the place and a machete and they happen to be black, I shouldn't say anything or do anything because I might be labeled a racist. That's not the way the world works. My own personal belief, based on the evidence, is that Zimmerman was attacked. That Trayvon Martin originally was walking away from him, or didn't notice he was there, when not exactly sure, noticed that he was being followed, went up to Zimmerman, said, "What you doing here?" and then attacked him. And it could have something, maybe he thought he was, I don't know, maybe he thought he was an actual officer of the law or something. I don't know if Zimmerman was wearing some sort of uniform at the time or not. And it's possible. I mean, it's obviously a misunderstanding of some sort because one person's dead, the other's on trial, so it was a misunderstanding on both their parts, regardless of what happened. But the evidence simply isn't there to say that Zimmerman did anything wrong. He has every right to defend himself with deadly force, and it should be this way in all states. You should be able to use deadly force to defend yourself in any situation. If you're attacked, you should be able to use deadly force. If not a deadly weapon, literally beating the person with your fists. But how do you get Zimmerman the racist from him saying someone looks suspicious? The logic doesn't follow. It doesn't make any sense. And when you say, well, he's a creepy-ass cracker, well, he's Hispanic, so I don't know if a white Hispanic qualifies as a cracker in the linguistics of black culture, or if there'd be some other term for a white Hispanic. Not sure. But what's really worrying is if Zimmerman, of course, gets released, if he's found not guilty, all of these people, literally hundreds of thousands of them saying, "Kill Whitey," you have to wonder if something like the LA riots after the Rodney King beating will actually occur again. And, I mean, it shouldn't. People should be reasonable. They should use some common sense and say, well, this is how a trial works. You have to peruse the evidence. People apparently are less concerned with the evidence than they are with Trayvon being black and Zimmerman being, supposedly or marginally or somehow a white individual. That seems to be what most people are focusing on, and if you look at most of the media reporting, they keep drumming up that issue of, well, he was racist, and Trayvon is black, and Zimmerman was older than him. What does this have to do with anything? It's just, ironically, the people that are crying racist towards Zimmerman are themselves dragging out every stereotype in the book. Well, he's white, therefore racist because thought black person was suspicious. He's older, so therefore stronger. All of these stereotypes that they're using, how is this any different from Zimmerman supposedly stereotyping Trayvon, even though he was known by other people close to him not to be racist in any way? It's not like he went around with a swastika on his forehead, burning crosses on people's lawns and continuously saying nigger. He didn't do these things. So how the hell is he racist? It makes absolutely no sense. Anyone reasonable who's looking at this evidence says there's certainly reasonable doubt that Zimmerman did nothing wrong. That he simply got out of his car, went to the junction of this area, this alleyway, and was attacked. There's sufficient doubt to say that that's entirely possible. I think that the jury will acquit him. I think that will happen. I think that even though the jury oddly looks a little bit stacked to me against him, I think that he will be acquitted. I think that the jury will acquit Zimmerman and he will go free. He'll probably get shot the moment he walks out of the courtroom, but I think he'll be free. And I feel sorry for him in many ways because everyone now knows him as a child-killing uber racist, even though there's no evidence to suggest that he was the aggressor or that he's racist in any way. It's a sad testament, and the media is not being helpful. I have seen absolutely zero objective reporting about this anywhere in the media. Everyone is either squarely on Trayvon's side or squarely on Zimmerman's side and refuses to just report the issues. And that's ultimately, this is a testament to the failure of the media in the United States, and it's breaking down into these sectarian stereotypical camps for a jaded TV audience that's more interested in flashy music and lots of debate than they are actual evidence in any criminal case. Peace out.